Imagine this. 4 people walk into the same upscale restaurant on a Friday evening. 3 are wearing fragrances that cost between $200 and $350. The 4th person is wearing a perfume bought for just $28 at a clothing store. By the end of the night, only 1 person has been asked the same question 3 different times. What perfume are you wearing? Surprisingly, it wasn't the most expensive bottle. Because once a fragrance leaves the bottle and mixes with your skin, your body chemistry, and the air around you, price alone doesn't determine how memorable it becomes. That raises an interesting question. How much of what we're paying for in luxury perfume is actually the scent itself? And how much is the brand, the packaging, the celebrity campaign, and the prestige that comes with it? Today, we're exploring 5 affordable fragrances under $35 that fragrance enthusiasts consistently praise for smelling far more expensive than they actually are. These aren't random internet recommendations or questionable knockoffs. They're fragrances with loyal followings, thousands of positive reviews, and reputations that have grown through real-world wear, not million-dollar advertising campaigns. And by the end of this video, you may start looking at expensive perfume a little differently. Before we begin, let's clear up one of the biggest misconceptions in the fragrance world. Expensive doesn't automatically mean better, but cheap doesn't automatically mean equal either. Luxury perfume costs more for many legitimate reasons. You're paying for years of brand heritage, designer packaging, boutique retail space, marketing campaigns,
celebrity endorsements, and sometimes rare natural ingredients that are genuinely expensive to source. None of those things are inherently bad. In fact, many luxury fragrances absolutely deserve their reputation. But here's where things become interesting. The liquid inside the bottle usually represents only a fraction of the final retail price. Industry professionals have long pointed out that branding, distribution, and marketing account for a significant portion of what consumers ultimately pay. That's why 2 fragrances can create remarkably similar impressions while costing dramatically different amounts. This doesn't mean every affordable perfume is secretly a hidden luxury masterpiece. Most aren't. But every once in a while, a fragrance appears that punches far above its price tag. And those are the ones we're focusing on today. Our first fragrance comes from a company that wasn't even known for perfume just a decade ago. Yet today, collectors, reviewers, and everyday fragrance lovers regularly recommend it alongside bottles costing 5 or even 10 times more.
Fragrance number 1. Zara Black Peony. About $20 to $30. If you've spent any time browsing fragrance communities, you've probably noticed something unusual. People who own collections worth thousands of dollars still keep buying perfume from Zara. At first, that sounds strange. After all, Zara is known for fashion, not fine fragrance. But over the last several years, the brand has quietly earned respect by producing affordable scents that feel surprisingly refined for the price. One of the best examples is Zara Black Peony. The first spray opens with a soft burst of fresh fruit before revealing delicate floral notes that slowly settle into warm vanilla and creamy sandalwood. The overall impression isn't loud or overly sweet. Instead, it feels clean, elegant, and effortless. The kind of scent people notice without immediately realizing why. What's even more impressive is how wearable it is. Whether you're heading to work, meeting friends for coffee, or going out for dinner, Black Peony rarely feels out of place. And that's one reason it has become such a consistent recommendation among fragrance enthusiasts. Across fragrance communities, many wearers describe it as smelling far more expensive than its modest price suggests. Not because it's identical to a luxury perfume, but because it creates the same polished, well-put-together feeling that people often associate with high-end designer fragrances.
Performance, of course, depends on your skin chemistry.
Some people report getting 4 to 6 hours of noticeable wear, while others experience even longer longevity on clothing. That's completely normal in perfumery. No fragrance performs exactly the same on every person. But here's what makes Black Peony stand out. For around $20 to $30, it delivers an experience that feels thoughtfully composed, rather than obviously inexpensive. And sometimes, that's all a fragrance needs to do. Because most people won't remember what you paid. They'll remember how you smelled. But if Black Peony represents understated elegance, our next fragrance proves that one of the biggest surprises in modern perfumery didn't come from Paris or Milan. It came from the world of celebrity fragrances, and almost nobody saw it coming.
Fragrance number 2, Elizabeth Arden White Tea, about $25 to $35. There are perfumes that demand attention the moment you walk into a room. And then there are fragrances that quietly earn admiration without ever trying too hard. Elizabeth Arden White Tea belongs firmly in the second category. When most people hear the name Elizabeth Arden, they think of skincare, makeup, or a heritage beauty brand that's been around for decades. Perfume isn't usually the first thing that comes to mind. But among fragrance enthusiasts, white tea has become one of the industry's best-kept secrets. Released in 2017, it quickly gained a reputation for delivering something that many affordable fragrances struggle to achieve: a true sense of effortless luxury. The inspiration behind white tea is simple. Capture the peaceful feeling of taking the very first sip of freshly brewed white tea on a quiet morning. That calm, clean, comforting moment became the fragrance's entire identity. The opening is crisp and refreshing. Bright Italian mandarin blends with delicate sea breeze accords, creating an airy freshness that immediately feels clean rather than sharp. As the fragrance develops, soft white tea extract becomes the heart of the composition, accompanied by elegant mate absolute and a whisper of white iris. Together, they create a scent that's smooth, sophisticated, and remarkably calming. Then comes the dry down. Warm musk, amberwood, and exotic tonka beans slowly emerge, wrapping the fragrance in a soft, creamy warmth that lingers close to the skin for hours. The result is subtle elegance. It's the kind of perfume people notice when they sit beside you, lean in for a conversation, or pass by in an elevator. It never feels loud. It simply feels expensive. And that's exactly why fragrance lovers continue recommending it year after year. Browse online reviews, and you'll find countless people describing white tea as smelling like something that should cost well over $100. Not because it's trying to imitate another fragrance, but because its composition feels balanced, refined, and incredibly well executed. Performance is moderate, typically lasting between 5 and 7 hours with a soft, elegant scent trail. It's not designed to dominate a room. Instead, it creates what many enthusiasts call a personal luxury experience, a fragrance worn more for yourself than for everyone around you. And perhaps that's the greatest compliment any perfume can receive, because true luxury isn't always about being noticed first. Sometimes it's about leaving the strongest impression after you've already walked away. But while white tea celebrates quiet sophistication, our next fragrance comes from a completely different tradition, one where bold oud, rich amber, and centuries of Middle Eastern craftsmanship create an experience unlike anything found in most Western department stores. Fragrance number 3, Swiss Arabian Shaghaf Oud, about $30 to $35. If luxury perfume had a hidden bargain section, this might be it. Long before European designer houses became symbols of luxury, the Middle East had already developed one of the world's richest fragrance traditions. For centuries, oud, amber, rose, saffron, musk, and precious resins formed the foundation of perfumery across the region. Even today, many Middle Eastern perfume houses continue producing incredibly high-quality fragrances at prices that seem almost unbelievable to Western buyers. One brand stands above the rest: Swiss Arabian. Founded in 1974, the company blends Arabian perfume traditions with modern fragrance craftsmanship, creating scents that have developed a loyal following around the world. Among its most celebrated creations is Shaghaf Oud. The first spray immediately makes a statement. Rich saffron and luxurious oud create an opening that feels warm, slightly smoky, and unmistakably expensive. Within minutes, sweet praline begins softening the composition, while rose and vanilla add depth without overwhelming the darker woods beneath.
The result is bold, comforting, and surprisingly addictive. This isn't the kind of fragrance that whispers. It announces itself. And that's exactly why so many fragrance lovers compare it to niche perfumes costing well over $100. Perhaps even more impressive than the scent itself is the performance. Many wearers report 8 to 12 hours of longevity, with some still detecting traces on clothing the following day. That's remarkable at any price point. It's one reason Shaghaf Oud has become something of a legend among budget-conscious collectors. Of course, this style isn't for everyone. If you prefer fresh citrus fragrances or light florals, this may feel too rich for everyday use. But for cooler evenings, formal occasions, or anyone curious about Middle Eastern perfumery, it's one of the strongest values in the entire fragrance industry. And it proves something fascinating. Sometimes spending less doesn't mean accepting lower quality. Sometimes it simply means shopping somewhere different. But our next fragrance takes an entirely different approach. Instead of creating an original scent, this company openly admits exactly what inspired it. And surprisingly, that honesty? Fragrance number 4. Dossier Ambery Saffron. Around $29. Imagine walking into a luxury department store and discovering that one of the most talked about niche fragrances in the world costs over $300. Now imagine finding a fragrance that captures much of the same luxurious feeling for less than the price of dinner. That's the idea behind Dossier. Unlike many brands that quietly imitate successful perfumes, Dossier does something unusual. They're completely transparent.
Every bottle openly tells you which luxury fragrance inspired it. No guessing, no mystery, no pretending otherwise. Their philosophy is simple. Most people aren't buying perfume because they want an expensive bottle. They're buying perfume because they want an expensive experience. One of the brand's standout releases is Ambery Saffron, inspired by one of the most recognizable niche fragrances ever created. The first spray immediately feels smooth and airy. Bright saffron introduces a slightly sweet warmth before delicate jasmine softens the opening. As it develops, amberwood begins taking center stage, creating that glowing, almost crystalline effect that fragrance lovers often describe as luxurious. Finally, oak moss and cedarwood anchor everything together, leaving behind a clean, woody trail that lingers surprisingly well throughout the day. Is it identical to the luxury original? No, and Dossier never claims it is. But that's almost beside the point. What matters is the overall experience. Elegant, modern, confident. It's the kind of scent that feels perfectly at home in an upscale restaurant, a formal event, or an evening out, without demanding a luxury-sized budget. That's why Dossier has become so popular among fragrance enthusiasts. Not because they're replacing luxury, but because they're making high-end scent profiles accessible to people who simply love perfume. And that raises an interesting question. If you can achieve a similar feeling for under $30, what exactly are you paying for when the price jumps to $300? Sometimes the answer is artistry. Sometimes it's exclusivity. And sometimes it's simply the logo on the bottle.
Fragrance number 5, Lattafa Yara, about $25 to $35. Every once in a while, a fragrance appears that completely takes over social media. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Reddit, Facebook fragrance groups, collectors, beginners. Almost everyone seems to be talking about it. Over the last few years, that fragrance has been Lattafa Yara. At first glance, the bottle doesn't scream luxury. Its soft pastel pink design looks playful and approachable. But inside is a fragrance that surprised almost everyone who tried it.
The opening is creamy, tropical, and slightly fruity. As the fragrance settles, delicate vanilla, soft musk, and smooth sandalwood begin blending together into something incredibly comfortable. It's warm without becoming heavy, sweet without becoming overpowering, and feminine without feeling immature. More importantly, it smells far more expensive than most people expect. That's one reason it has become one of the highest recommended affordable perfumes online. Scroll through thousands of reviews and you'll notice the same words appearing again and again. Creamy, addictive, comforting, compliment magnet. Of course, no fragrance receives universal praise. Perfume will always be subjective. What smells incredible on one person might feel ordinary on someone else. That's simply the nature of skin chemistry. But when thousands of people across different countries continue recommending the same bottle year after year, it's worth paying attention. Yara represents something much bigger than a successful, affordable perfume. It represents a shift in the fragrance industry itself. Today, consumers have more information than ever before. They compare ingredients, read reviews, watch independent creators, and increasingly, they're judging perfume by what matters most. Not the name, not the price, but how it makes them feel. So, what have we actually learned? Luxury perfume isn't a scam. Many luxury houses create extraordinary fragrances that deserve their reputation. But expensive perfume and great perfume are not the same thing. Sometimes they overlap, sometimes they don't. Today's 5 fragrances prove that beautiful composition, impressive performance, and memorable scent experiences aren't reserved exclusively for bottles locked behind designer glass displays. Whether it's Zara Black Peony, Elizabeth Arden White Tea, the rich Middle Eastern craftsmanship of Swiss Arabian Shaghaf Oud, Dossier's transparent approach to luxury-inspired fragrance, or the viral success of Lattafa Yara, each one offers something remarkable without demanding hundreds of dollars from your wallet. Maybe affordable perfume isn't catching up to luxury. Maybe luxury never had a monopoly on smelling incredible in the first place. Because at the end of the day, nobody asks how much your fragrance costs. They only remember how you smelled. Now, I'm curious. What's the best affordable fragrance you've ever owned? Maybe it's a hidden gem almost nobody knows about, or maybe it's one that's already become legendary among collectors. Drop its name in the comments. I read every single one, and your recommendation might end up featured in a future video. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into affordable fragrances, you'll definitely want to watch the next video, because we're putting luxury perfumes head-to-head against their budget alternatives in a blind comparison to find out whether people can actually tell the difference. You might be surprised by the results. Until then, thanks for watching.